Good. Good to see you virtually.
Hello, good morning.
Hey, Matt.
Hey, Matt.
My first Zoom call for Rotary. I actually have COVID this week, so glad to
No.
have a virtual option.
Well, you're in for a rare treat. These Zoom calls are there's way more people on the screen than there would be if you were in person. So you got that going for you.
But I will tell people I thought COVID was over and gone, and I threw away all my masks earlier this spring, and I'm here to tell you it's still around.
Did it kick you pretty good, or did you have mild symptoms?
It kicked me a lot harder than it did when I had it in 2022. And the biggest thing really was just a lot of fatigue. So never had a fever, but just very, very tired.
You have a you have a runny nose at all, Matt?
Some mild sinus
Yeah.
activity, which, I thought I came down with it on Monday and I thought I just had a heavy weekend. And by the time I left work Monday, I was just beat up.
My COVID experience was Plexovate just really killed me. I had terrible time with that medicine.
Yeah.
At least I did not go to the hospital.
All right, looks like we're getting started. I'm going to mute everybody, and it was good seeing you guys. Enjoy your time.
Good afternoon, fellow Rotarians. I'd like to welcome you to the August meeting of the Rotary Club of Lexington. For those of you who are new and joining us for the first time, we welcome you, and we welcome those who are also joining us via internet or the web. With that in mind, by the way, my name is Bill Wilson, your servant leader for today. Brett Anderson, our chair, is, he's out on business. I am his stunt double for today, so we'll work that way. Our pledge, four-way test, and inspiration will be given by Barry Stumbo.
Thank you, Mr. President. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Now the four-way test. Is it true? To the law concerned, will it do goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? Good afternoon, everybody. It's good to see my good friend Jeff Ashley here today. We go back in fundraising a long time, and he's still at it, but I decided to get out of it. So we're leaving it up to you, Jeff. Who all has raise your hand if you watched any of the Olympics? Well, my inspiration today is a little Olympic story, and I'd like to share this with you. 88 years ago today, August 1st, the Berlin Olympics of 1936 began in Adolf Hitler's Nazi Germany, and the Nazi Party used the event as a soapbox to promulgate the theory of Aryan superiority. He tried everything. As Michelle and I personally witnessed just over 6 months ago during a visit to Dachau, and I will tell you, it was a haunting experience that I will forever remember. Fortunately, Hitler was shown up by the USA and Jesse Owens and other African Americans, members of the so-called inferior race. Owen was the first American to win 4 gold medals in a single Olympics. He won the 100 meters, the 200 meters, the broad jump, and the 400-meter relay. His 4 golds in a single Olympics was not matched until American Carl Lewis did it 48 years later in 1984. Born in Oakville, Alabama, Owen once said, "We all have dreams, but in order to make dreams come true, it takes an awful lot of determination, dedication, self-discipline, and effort. The man who showed up Hitler and his discredited policies of racial superiority thus became an important figure in a society that began with one of the most important decisions ever reached by the Supreme Court, 1954's Brown versus the Board of Education. The case ruled that racial segregation in public schools violated the Constitution's 14th Amendment to Equal Protection Clause. The 14th Amendment remains important to our society today. Jesse Owen died in 1980. Owen was posthumously awarded America's highest civilian honor, the Congressional Gold Medal, in 1990 by then President George H.W. Bush. It was presented to his wife and to his daughters. The world owes a great deal of gratitude to Jesse Cleveland Owen. In his later years, he spoke around the country. His speeches focused on and stressed upon the importance of religion, of hard work, and of loyalty, values that continue to inspire us as Rotarians. Go USA. Thank you very much.
Barry, that was very appropriate with the Olympics on the line. By the way, Jesse Owens' name was James Cleveland. But when he went to school, his teacher asked him what was his name, and he said James Cleveland, and she misinterpreted that as Jesse. That's how it turned out to be Jesse. That's just a thought on the thing. Introduction of guest Trey.
Good afternoon. We have one visiting Rotarian from the Paris Club, Matt Roberts. We have 6 visitors today. Edwin Gibson has 2 guests, John Matthews and Lynn Washbish. Chris Hensley is a visitor with us today. Welcome, Chris. Eileen O'Brien has a guest, Lucy Jays. Kim Johnson has a guest, Art Hubbard. Art. And Franklin Thompson has a guest, Yukayo Kanai. Welcome.
To all of our guests and to our visiting Rotarian, thank you so very, very much for honoring us with your presence. We hope that you'll come back and visit us again, and hopefully you'll even take out a membership to be a part of this great organization. The lottery, Bruce Daly. Where's, oh, okay. This, for those of you who are new and our guests, this is the gambling part of our Rotary Club.
We got 1697.
We got 1697. Okay. And the ace of clubs is what we're looking for. The number is 5706.
There we go. We got a dollar though.
Okay, hold that now. We got one more drawing here. And this was 5680. 5680.
There we go. Okay.
Okay, do you need these? Okay, thank you for participating in that. Celebrating birthdays this week, Christy Hogue, Alicia Chafin, and Garland Barr, who is, I might add, turning 80 this week. Franklin Thompson will be turning 88 next week, and in honor of his service to the club, by volunteering and attending the events that we have. Our president, Brett Anderson, made a contribution to the birthday fund in his honor. So let's give all of our birthday people a And it's also a nice time and transition to remind you that if you have a birthday coming up, we would like for you to honor yourself and others by donating $1 for every year that you've been on this planet. I'm sure that'll be mucho dollars coming in. Announcements, community service. We still need 2 volunteers for KT call out. Now, let me say this. We already have our full complement, but we need 2 alternatives. And Alicia, you can put me down as one of the backups if Rotary, the regional don't call me to do something on that day. So let Alicia Chafin know if you're interested in being a backup volunteer for that. On our 5th Thursday event for this month is the Pollinator Garden event. It's an evening tour and we'll have beverages and refreshments there. It's going to be at Kenilwood Park from 5:30 to 7 on August the 29th. So please come out and see the Pollinator Garden. This is a project of Rotary, and a lot of people have spent a lot of sweaty days out there trying to help get the garden in shape, but I think it's well worth the view. Next, August the 15th, we have the backpack program is starting back up again. And we'll start at 1 o'clock at the same location, which is on Winchester Road. So if you're interested in getting into the backpack program, see Susie Batcham, she'll get you squared away in on that. Now for the introduction of our newest Rotarian, Jenny Schnurr. Would you please come forward?
Good afternoon, members of the Rotary Club. Today, it is my pleasure to introduce to you the newest member of our club, Michael Thompson. I met Michael a few months ago at one of our early bird morning mixers, and after talking to him for just a few minutes, I knew maybe before he did that I had met a new Rotarian. I just had to make sure that he understood the value of what the organization is. He was just so interested and passionate about learning more about how we're giving back to the community, everything that Rotary is doing, and he just has a heart of a servant leader. So I was so excited when he allowed me to spend some more time with him, get to know him. He started coming to meetings, and here we are today. Michael grew up in Decatur, Georgia, just outside of Atlanta. His path in life changed direction when his mother passed away when he was 16. Through the Job Corps, he relocated to Simpsonville, Kentucky, and eventually made his way to Kentucky State, where he graduated in 2012 with a bachelor's in business administration and a minor in psychology. Might sound like sales is a natural fit there. So if you learn this about him in your program, he is now with Mighty Dog Roofing. And that although he is in sales, his passion is about educating homeowners, helping them know how to take care of their home, and maybe not making the sale if it means doing the right thing. And I feel once again, it fits with that 4-way test. Outside of work, Michael enjoys playing and watching sports, especially basketball, and enjoys playing chess as well. He loves meeting and talking to new people. I would say that he's never met a stranger. And he is passionate about community service and how he can give back, particularly in the area of servicing the homeless. I am sure he is going to be a wonderful addition to our group. Can you please give him a warm welcome? Where is your red badge? You become a member of the yearling committee, and you're excited to see what you will do with us.
Welcome to the fold, Michael. Thank you so very, very much. By the way, Rotary is going to give, this Rotary Club is going to give $5,000 to the next, well, it's a violation of the, is it the truth? It's not, it's not the truth. But I tell you what, when I mentioned the money, I got your attention. That's one thing. Hopefully Rotary itself will give you an attention getter. So bring in other people, and welcome again, Michael, for that. Now for our guest speaker, our new Rotarian, Don Thorpe, will introduce our speaker for the hour. Not for the hour, just for a few minutes.
Thank you. Before I get started, I want to dispel any myth that Bill Wilson is my brother. So we'll get that cleared up. I first of all, I want to apologize to the program committee. when they started talking about programs for this year, I was on it like a dog on a bone. Hey, I got this great program, got emails back, we're getting that together. Hey, but you gotta get it, we're good on it, Don. No, Don, we're working on it. So the program that we're presenting today, I think is gonna be near and dear to all us Rotarians. Primarily because either you're serving on the board, you have served on the board, you've given money, you've been asked, well, how's this nonprofit doing? What's the landscape look like so that's why we're here today and what we're going to do. Jeff Ashley, our presenter, his whole resume is on the front of our Wheel Horse magazine. So I won't repeat that, but I will tell you that one of the things that's most impressive about Jeff, other than he's a UK grad, is that he has more than 30 years of leadership, giving, fundraising, and nonprofit experience. Jeff has assisted hundreds of organizations in raising well over $1 billion. That's B at a billion. So without further ado, the man of the hour, Jeff Ashley.
Well, thank you all. It's great to be here, and it's kind of old home week, old home day for me. So many friends and folks here. Bill, Bill reminded me, Rotarians start on time, you all end on time too. So I won't take the full hour. I'll be mindful of your investment of time today. Again, thank you all for being here, and thank you for Rotarians do service above self and the 4-way test. What you do, makes a difference every single day to so many people in need and so many communities across the world. So thank you for what you do. And so today I want to spend, again, maybe about 15, 20 minutes just talking to you a little bit about the state of giving, philanthropy, what's going on there and trends and so forth. And then also kind of give you a sense of the nonprofit sector in Kentucky. Eileen and I serve on the Kentucky Nonprofit Network Board, which is kind of like the state chamber of commerce for the nonprofit sector. So a number of the things that I'm going to share with you today have been pulled together by KNN, and some real interesting things, I think. And if you serve on a board, or if you're a philanthropist, everybody's a philanthropist, by the way. It doesn't matter the amount that you give, it's the matter that you're giving. But hopefully this will be real helpful for you, maybe interesting to you. And I do want to start by saying I hate the term nonprofit. I hate it. I think people think that, well, if you run a nonprofit organization, or if you are a nonprofit organization, that means you don't make any profit. Well, if you don't make a profit, you're not going to operate. You're not going to fulfill your mission. You're not going to be able to fulfill that social outcome that you've committed yourself to do. So, when I think of nonprofit, and hopefully part of what I'm going to frame up to you today helps maybe shift your thinking just a little bit around the impact of nonprofits, the importance of nonprofits in Kentucky, and what that sector does. So again, I hope I do it justice. If we could go to the next slide. Oh, I have the clicker. Oh, great. All right. Well, this is going to be even better. So, and I do want to thank Dr. Tharp, and then Sean Lyons is in the audience today, and Sean's with the Pritchard Committee. Sean's also a team member of ours too, and helps us as we work with groups. But a little bit about Ashley Rountree. We've been around since 2002. We've worked with it's about 450 organizations now, mostly regionally. A lot in the central Kentucky area and also nationally. We've got 11 staff members, over 30 contractor partners that work with us, and our whole base of support and focus is that nonprofit sector. We also work with the corporate community in helping them shape what does their community impact look like? What does their philanthropy look like? So corporate foundations or corporate sponsorship programs, and that's real interesting. That could be a whole talk in and of itself. But in today's workforce environment, what a company does in the corporate responsibility space is really an HR solution. You want people to feel great about the place they work at. And so the volunteerism or even the corporate giving, what that looks like is helping solve human resource problems and workforce issues across the Commonwealth. And so we do that work as well. So I've got a couple things here that I'm going to dig into, and I hope you can see the slides okay. But this is a snapshot of giving from 2023, and it just gives you a sense of philanthropy. Where does philanthropy come from? And while there are four kind of things that make up the $557 billion in philanthropy, that Americans that happened in the United States in 2023, there are really three buckets of philanthropy. And I think this is important. If you're a board member or when you think about this, you have individuals, you have private foundations, and you have corporations. Those are the three buckets that every philanthropic dollar comes from. Now, you might say, well, what about Rotary? Rotary is considered in that private foundation bucket. They're an organization that supports and has philanthropy and so forth. In Europe, Rotary is a 501c3 itself, but you support other endeavors. So when we talk about that and we talk about these numbers, that's where Rotary's numbers falls under kind of counting of the foundations. But if you look at over $557 billion was given. We're a very generous country. Kentucky, very generous state. Lexington, Central Kentucky, very generous community. This is, people in organizations that are trying to support social needs that otherwise wouldn't be supported. So the breakdown, where does philanthropy come from? 67% of those current dollars are given by individuals. So that's about $374 billion last year was given by individual donors. Second on the list, 19%, almost $104 billion was given by foundations. Okay. So when you hear the Keeneland Foundation, you have Keeneland Company, right? But they also have a separate entity, separate legal entity, the Keeneland Foundation, that makes grants and so forth. That would fall underneath that category. The largest private foundation in Kentucky is the James Graham Brown Foundation. They're based out of Louisville. They give statewide, and their giving, which equates to about $30 to $35 million a year, falls into this category. The third category, 8%, about $43 billion is given by the category by bequest. And I'm going to call that planned giving because that's giving by estate planning. Now, I'm going to ask you this question. Who makes bequest? Out of those three buckets that I mentioned, individuals, corporations, foundations, individuals. Corporations don't have wills, last wills and testaments. They don't give planned gifts and so forth, and foundations don't. So when you think about the sources of giving, it's really that 67 plus the 8%, 75% of all giving comes from individuals, okay? Then the final category is corporations, and about 7%, again, $36.5 billion is given by corporations. Now, one of the things we see a lot of, and I'm not undermining the importance of corporate giving, but typically when you see headlines in media or news stories or what have you, it's anybody here from Central Bank? Okay, I'm going to pick on Central Bank, and this is great. I'm not picking on them, but you're going to see the corporate headlines because they got PR departments and communication departments. Central Bank has made a gift of whatever. Lexmark has made a gift of. You're going to see the public, the general public, sees more around corporate giving, or they might see this foundation. If you go on UK's campus, there's a number of very generous names that are being recognized for their philanthropy, but you'll see the Gatton name, Mr. Gatton, Bill Gatton, and there's the Gatton Foundation, a private foundation. Now, that wealth was created by an individual and a family and put into that private foundation, but you're going to see headlines around, typically around maybe private foundations or grants or corporate giving. You see that more than you do see individual giving. So what typically happens is folks in the nonprofit community tilt to say, well, we got to go out and get more grants, and we got to go out and get more foundation support, and we got to get out more corporate support. Well, let me ask you to take a step back, because where does 75% of the giving come from? Comes from individuals. So if you're going to win this philanthropic game, so to speak, if you're with an organization and what do you want to focus on? If you're the long haul, and if you're thinking about relationships, not transactions, but relationships and giving, individuals is where you really want to be. Okay. So that's kind of maybe just, information point number one. Now a couple other things around this 557 billion. That's the highest ever in terms of annual total philanthropic totals. However, that total did not outpace 2022 in terms of inflation. If we adjust for inflation, giving was actually down by a little over 2%. So it's holding its own, but it's taken a little bit of a dip. Giving by individuals, if you go back 10 years, all right, well, actually, I'm sorry, if you go back to 1983, total giving by individuals was 88%. So we've gone from 88% to 75% as a percentage of the total, meaning that corporate giving has actually increased and foundation giving has actually increased, and based on market conditions. But, while some may say, well, that individual giving has decreased, it's still 75%. So, again, part of our communication to the nonprofit community in terms of sources of revenue, and if it's contributed revenue that they're looking for, you gotta focus on those individual donors. All right. So that's that piece. So where did people give? So that's how much they gave. And I apologize for how small this is. And I will say, if you want, I'm happy to send this deck out to anybody that wants to see it. So, but where did they give? So 24% of that giving went to religion, went to houses of worship, went to your church, synagogue, your temple. That's where it went. And religion has been at the top of the list for the past 35, 40 years that this has been measured. Secondly, human services, 14%, education, 14%, foundations, 13%. So this is individuals. This is a little nuance here, right? This is individuals that, or corporations. So I'll pick the Brown Forman Company in Louisville. You'll know bourbon, right? We know bourbon. So Brown Forman Corporation created the Brown Forman Foundation, and they actually took some of their corporate profits and moved it over into the foundation. So when that happened, that would count into this giving to foundations, and then that giving from foundations obviously goes out the door to others. Public society benefit, that's kind of a catch-all category. 10% health. So the hospital, the nonprofit hospital systems, et cetera, got about 9%. International, this is money from the United States going to international needs, 5%. Arts, culture, and humanities, and this is surprising to a lot of folks, only 4% of giving, because there seems to be, again, anecdotally, a spotlight on a lot of the arts organizations, but as a total of the whole, only 4%. And then environment, animals, so Humane Society, environmental causes, 3%. And then just outright giving to individuals, 3%. So that would be like, if, kind of some of these GoFundMe things, to help a family in need, those types of things. So this is kind of where it went. A couple things I'll point out in terms of, what saw the biggest increases. Giving to foundations year over year had a 15% increase. So there was a transaction that occurred from either individual or corporate that money went into a foundation that's at some points going to be granted out to different causes. Education and public society benefit up 11%. Human services up almost 6%. The giving to individuals declined 17%. Overall. So it toggles back and forth and so forth, but religion has always been at the top of the list, if you will. And, what also I will point out is a lot of the human service organizations and some of the educational organizations have a faith-based history. So if you think about some of the children's homes, residential children's facilities, especially around this region, especially in Kentucky, there is a faith-based history there. And, it's very interesting to our team sometimes because we'll have folks that want to, play that down a little bit, not celebrate that faith history. More often than not, we say you need to celebrate that faith history because almost 25% of all the giving is tied to faith. It's a faith journey. This generosity journey for a lot of individuals, especially, is tied to their faith. It's why they give. Now, we also have the other end of the spectrum where folks that don't have a charitable bone in their body, they just want the tax break, right? Or they want the recognition. Put my name in lights, tell everybody what I did. I don't really care about your organization. That's not what we hope for when we think about philanthropy, but the reality is that's how some think about this, right? So this is a snapshot again about where did the charitable dollars go. So, all right, comments, questions, anything, and we'll get to that. Yes.
Federal government, state government, local government. So where does that fit into this?
That's not counted in this number, but that is a additional bucket of revenue. So when we look at it, you have contributed income, which is philanthropy, this number. You also have public sources of revenue, so city, state, federal sources. You might have earned income, fee for service, things like that. So yeah, the great question. None of the local, state or federal dollars. So none of the pandemic dollars, if you will, are counted in this at all. Yeah. Yes, sir.
You mentioned that you dislike my term, not yours.
Yeah.
Term nonprofit. You have an alternate title for your name.
I've been struggling with that for years. I like social impact. But that doesn't capture everything. There is this, there's a guy, if you haven't seen this, there's a TED Talk by a guy named Dan Pallotta. If you haven't seen it, it's really a good TED Talk. And he has some terminology there that hits around social impact, community generosity. I've not found the right words for me yet. I know I don't like nonprofit. Yeah. Yes, sir.
On the 14% that goes to religion, what part of that is there a breakdown? What part of that goes to human needs, social services, that kind of thing?
Well, so you mean the 24% on religion? 24%. Yeah. That is going to be so that's interesting too, because that goes specifically to support houses of worship. So that's churches, synagogues, temples, and it also might be denominations. You might send it there. And then those individual organizations, they support their operating budgets, but then they're pushing those dollars back out to other ministries or mission work that they have. We don't have a breakdown of that with this particular piece. Now, I will give you an example, Southeast Christian Church in Louisville, large church, they push out, their last operating budget was pretty big. It was about $40 million. They're pushing out 25% of what they're getting from the offertory, from their congregants, out to different ministry, mission, human service, et cetera. What's the breakdown of that? That's not captured in these numbers. Yes, sir.
In fact, as the internet had on giving, I know the presidential institution.
Yep. So interesting. Give me 1 second because I had some new data on that. Internet online giving is actually decreasing. And so the pop-up ads, the digital media, or it's on the social media, Facebook, et cetera, that's actually decreasing. But the results of the marketing, so if nonprofits are marketing more and communicating their message more and driving people to their website to give online on their website, what we're seeing there is monthly donors. So people that are saying, hey, I'll give $10 a month or $25 a month. They're seeing that messaging on social media and so forth, and they're signing up to be monthly donors. And that monthly donor rate from 2020 to 2023 grew by 57%. So if I'm in a nonprofit, if I'm on a board, I'm thinking about that too. And that's going like this, that continues, the trend continues. So let me get to some other slides and then we'll get to questions at the end too. So thank you all. I appreciate the great questions. So let me talk about the Kentucky Nonprofit Network a little bit. I told Danielle, I called her today, said, hey, by the way, I'm going to be talking about Danielle Clore is the executive director of the Kentucky Nonprofit Network. It was founded at the University of Kentucky. And basically it's the Commonwealth State Association for Nonprofits, and really focused on public advocacy and in policy and different things. And I'll tell you, I'll give you an example of the work that they do. Back after the pandemic, KNN lobbied and successfully created a $75 million fund for the nonprofit sector in Kentucky. And each organization that basically applied was eligible for up to $100,000 in unrestricted dollars just to help do that, make that forward. So people call that KNN money in the nonprofit sector. I don't know if I'd call it that, but that's part of the impact. So a lot of policy and so forth. And one of the things they do is an annual more than charity report. And that's what I want to kind of talk a little bit about today to give you a context of the impact of the nonprofit sector here in Kentucky. So I hope you can see this. So we've got the workforce. One of the ways that Kentucky looks at the geographic region is different workforce areas. And if you look at the blue, that's the bluegrass region right in the middle. So they picked their colors well. The Louisville area they made green. I'm happy about that for obvious reasons. Go Cats. But the bluegrass workforce area has almost 5,000 nonprofit organizations, registered nonprofit organizations. These are organizations that are legal entities, have their 501c, they're operating. They're doing things. This is Rotary Club. This is St. Joe's Healthcare. This is the University of Kentucky. This is Lexington Catholic. This is Lexington Christian Academy. This is the American Red Cross, et cetera, et cetera. So almost 5,000 organizations registered and operating in the bluegrass region of the Commonwealth of Kentucky. As you look at the total, it's about 21,500 in Kentucky. So it's a lot. I'm going to put that in context, and I don't know the bluegrass region, but in the Kentuckiana Works region, just in Jefferson County, Kentucky, where Louisville is, there are over 2,800 nonprofits, registered nonprofits that are geographically located in Louisville, Kentucky, Jefferson County, Kentucky. To give you some context, there are 1,700 gas stations. There are more nonprofits than there are gas stations in Louisville, Kentucky. All right. So if I'm driving down the road, I see a Thornton's to my left, and I might see a Thornton's to my right. They're everywhere. Then you got Kroger gas station, et cetera. There are a lot of nonprofits in our state. And if you go throughout the different regions here, that's what you do. On top of that, you also have what this doesn't capture are nonprofits that parachute in, right? So St. Jude's Children's Hospital, great organization. They do a lot of great work with childhood cancer research. They're based out of Memphis, Tennessee. They have offices in Louisville. They have operations here in Lexington, et cetera. They don't count. They're not counted here. But they're raising money here. They're operating here. They're engaging with people here. So the numbers that are actually higher in terms of the number of all tax exempt nonprofits in the Commonwealth. So it's a lot. So then when we look at, well, where do they come from? Or what are they doing? So we've got, if you look kind of first, this side over, right down, draw the line down the middle there. You've got about 6.8% of them are arts and culture and humanities. And remember, we said that about 4% of all giving goes to arts and culture and humanities. Well, they make up almost 7% here. So, you know, they get less of the philanthropic pie. By the way, that Giving USA, that percentages of where they give, that reflects back to Kentucky. Kentucky mirrors that. But education, you can see the numbers there is 12%. Human services is the largest in terms of percentage of total nonprofits at 26%, and so forth. And then if you get on the revenue side, how much revenue do these nonprofits produce? There's no contest. It's healthcare. It's the big healthcare organizations make up over 61%, $18.3 billion coming through the healthcare corridor. You got human services at 10% with $3 billion, and public social benefit almost 15%. Education is almost 11%. But that'll give you a sense of Kentucky, the number of organizations in each of these categories, and then the revenue associated with each of those categories. So here's a deeper dive. When we look at the total nonprofits, and these are the charitable nonprofits. So these are the ones that are actively out raising money against that total number. Some of them are foundations, et cetera. But we have about the bigger picture here is the 4,330 registered 501c3s that have paid employees. Okay, and I'm going to get to why that's important in a second as well. And basically in Kentucky, 1 in 10 Kentucky private sector jobs are at nonprofits. I'm going to preface this by saying, I don't know if that's such a great thing. And here's why. Kentucky's nonprofit sector is the 4th largest employer in Kentucky. Manufacturing is top, then retail, then accommodation and food services, then nonprofit. And then we drop down to healthcare. And then we have things like real estate and finances and so forth. This is my opinion only, but I'd love to see, I love the nonprofit sector. I love don't like the name, but I love the sector. I love what they do, the impact they have. But wouldn't it be better if the nonprofit sector was the 8th or 9th largest employer, not the 4th? And that finance and banking and real estate and I don't know, fill in the blanks. Some of these other businesses were higher on the list. It is what it is. I can't really change that, but it's to me, that I would love to see us work a little bit differently in terms of Kentucky. So 162,000 jobs at nonprofits, $10.5 billion in annual wages, and total annual expenditures, $27.5 billion. Here's my message. Kentucky's nonprofit sector is an economic driver for the Commonwealth of Kentucky. Again, I'd love to see other sectors kind of be elevated and do some different things. But it's time for us to quit thinking nice things about the nonprofit sector. And we got to embrace the nonprofit sector as a part of doing good business and doing business well in Kentucky. I've had this conversation with different chambers of commerce as well, and sometimes it clicks. I've had this conversation with different legislators. So, nonprofit sector is really important to Kentucky. That's kind of the bottom line with this. So I've got some other slides, and I'm going to go through them because, again, Rotarians end on time, and I want to get to a couple more questions. Small but mighty, I'll point this out. 74% of the nonprofits have annual budgets of less than $500,000. And then 82% of nonprofits have annual budgets of less than $1 million. There's the total revenue piece that was there. This is a big slide, and I won't go there. But, at the end of the day, this sector improves lives. It's an economic engine. It attracts other employees, so it's good for business. You know, when your big corporate entities are recruiting, a strong nonprofit sector is an important thing for people to come move to Lexington, move to Central Kentucky, move to the Commonwealth. It solves problems. It gets stuff done. It's great for democracy. It builds and strengthens democracy, and it promotes civic engagement. So as I'm making my pitch for this sector, which I wanted to do a little bit today, you know, I hope that has helped maybe help you learn just a little bit more, maybe shift your context a little bit about the sector. And, you know, you can do good and you can do well at the same time. And they're not kind of mutually exclusive. And so I hope that helps. So let me I know there were a few more questions, and I want, Bill, you can tackle me when I'm done. Yes, sir.
Standard reduction, in fact, that's added possible changes to that.
Yeah, so the long and short of that is that your higher net worth folks are taking advantage of it. It's shrunk the middle. So the middle class is actually giving less at the end of the day. So while, and your 80-20 rule, it used to be that 80% of your funding for a project or whatever would come from 20% of the people. It's more like 90-10, because you're seeing more of your high net worth people that are motivated by that you know, that can reach that's a benefit for. And you're seeing a shrinking of smaller gifts with that. So rethinking that, protecting the charitable tax deduction, all those are types of things that are really important. Yes, sir.
You got credit at 1380 now, go down to 580 now.
That's a great question. I don't know. It's my answer. I don't know. To be real honest, most people that make planned gifts and include charities, again, I've mentioned that you have folks that are really interested in their legacy and their philanthropic legacy. Others, it's a transaction. The folks that that doesn't affect, that they want to leave a legacy, they're going to do that anyway. So I don't know that it's going to have a huge effect overall.
Let's give Jeff a hand. Yeah. Thank
Pretty
you.
much.
Thanks
Thanks,
a
Bill.
lot.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jeff. That was absolutely wonderful. I told him that as Rotarians, we gave him the greatest gift we could, a lithograph from our own Bill Strauss, who is a world-renowned photographer. So thanks again, Jeff, for being with us. Any other business to come before us? If not, the meeting is adjourned. Right on time. Right on. Yeah.